Go ahead and knock out the Super Bowl favorites. Obviously, Super Bowl favorites will be the Kansas City Chiefs. Um, I gotta find the 49ers on this. And the 49ers. Pretty simple. Chiefs in the AFC, San Fran for the NFC. Only gonna do one of each because obviously um we only have two in the Super Bowl. So Super Bowl contenders. Or we should just go. Let's go pick by pick. Um Saints, I have them missing the playoffs. They have a lot of issues. To me, they should go for a rebuild, but I think they're good enough to where they're not going to be like mediocre. I think they're just going to barely miss the playoffs, specifically because of that division. Miami, they are definitely a playoff caliber team. They're not a contender to me. They have an amazing offense. It's just that defense is not where it needs to be. Baltimore, they are a legitimate contender. And AFC North, they are also Bengals, also a Super Bowl contender. These are guys that I would 100% see playing the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. Broncos, I'd go young. They picked their quarterback. They have a solid head coach. They wouldn't. That's a tough one for me because I think there's worse teams than the Broncos right now, and we'll get to that when they show up. The Giants are mediocre. I think they're better than people give them credit for. They're like fringe missing the playoffs, fringe mediocre. Part of it's because of how tough their division is. But they have a really solid defense, actually. It really depends on how their O line plays. And I really like Malik Neighbors. Vikings are young but intriguing. They got their quarterback. They got a really good young receiver who actually just got arrested Friday and is already out. But and then Justin Jefferson. They have some holes on defense, but not. Brian Flores actually played had them playing solid, not great, but solid last year. Rams are a playoff team. They will be one of the best wide receiver corps in the league. A solid top 10 at times quarterback. Um, Williams coming out of nowhere as a rookie running back. And a solid defense, but they do have some holes. But I think, like I said, they're very well coached. That the holes are not gleaming, which is why they're not a contender. But they are a playoff team. I'll throw them potential wild cards because I don't playoff team, playoff team. I could possibly move them though. Bucks, they're right in here. I'm gonna put them potential wild cards though, because they kind of hinge on the Falcons, and you'll see where I put them in a second. Detroit Lions, Super Bowl contender. They were literally two plays two plays away from making the Super Bowl last year. They had a couple really tough decisions by Dan Campbell to go for it on fourth, and it didn't pan out. And if they would have just taken their points, granted, you can't guarantee a made kick, but they could have definitely made the Super Bowl last year. Chicago's interesting. I am going to put them young but intriguing because it's all on paper right now. I could definitely see them making the playoffs. However, that division is kind of tough. And like I said, we have not seen them play a snap yet. Keenan Allen coming off a pretty big injury. DJ Moore is obviously great. DeAndre Swift is going to be awesome there. We have to see how their O line plays. We have to see how Caleb Williams plays, and we have to see how Rome plays. But they have potential to have the best offense in the NFL if Caleb Williams plays solid. Very rare to see a number one overall pick go somewhere that's actually ready for them. The Eagles are a playoff team. And don't care. It doesn't matter about the order. We can maybe change that in a minute, but Eagles are a playoff team 100%. And I wouldn't hate putting them in or Super Bowl contenders, which I may end up moving them because I want to have four. I want to see how the rest of the NFC plays out off the top of my head. Raiders, mediocre. They just don't have the quarterback. They have a good defense, solid weapons on offense. I really like the Brock Bowers pickup. And then they also got the center, I thought. So Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell will have a solid team, but they're not going to make any noise. And again, they have to play the Chiefs, they have to play the Chargers, and we'll grade all that in a minute. But that's going to be tough. Green Bay is a playoff team. They're not contenders yet. I think they can be. But they're just a playoff team. I would also maybe bump them down. Washington, again, young but intriguing. I'm actually higher up on them than a lot of people are because Dan Quinn is a solid coach, actually. Pair that with Terry McLaurin. The defense too is going to be interesting. Dan Campbell, not Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn is a solid coach in the NFL. Look at what he's did when Dallas, he took Atlanta to a Super Bowl. And I would argue that the Super Bowl loss, granted the defense did give up a lot, but it was Tom Brady. That was a lot on Kyle Shanahan for not calling a very good fourth quarter. Arizona, I'm going to put them at mediocre for now. I might end up moving them to number one pick contention. They have to figure out the Kyler Murray situation. That's the tough one because Marvin Harrison Jr. has potential. They've invested a lot in the offensive line, and last year they played a lot of teams tough. So I'll leave them at mediocre. Actually, I think I can probably find a number one pick contention. Steelers potential wild card. They always play tough. They are very good in their own division, but they have a mean schedule. A very mean schedule. Buffalo Bills are a playoff team. No matter what, with Josh Allen, they will win 9 games, 10 games. And I think Joe Brady's going to be a very good offensive coordinator for Josh Allen. Really just depends on how they cope without Stephon Diggs and a lot of their veteran leaders on defense. Falcons are a playoff team. Kirk Cousins changes everything for them. As much as they've been kind of they've won 7 games the past 3 years in a row. They have the weapons. They have a defensive-minded head coach that's going to keep the defense playing like they need to. Jesse Bates is amazing. AJ Terrell's good. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, which Drake London, to me, has the potential to get better. But very hard to judge those guys based off their QB performance. And Bijan obviously was not used correctly last year by Arthur Smith. So I have the Falcons really getting it together. Raheem Morris, granted, his last coaching tenure, not anything special. You could argue worse than that, but he's had a chance to coach for a very good organization. He's got a Super Bowl ring now. So we'll see with the Falcons. They're actually really intriguing to me, but I think they deserve a playoff spot right now. The Seahawks are a potential wild card. This is going to be a fringe team, mainly because of that division. They play solid football all the way around. And I love their new coaching hire. That defense is going to play tremendous. Patriots #1 pick contention. They just their roster's not good. It's been gutted. Unfortunately, it's been gutted. I mean, that's all you can really say. The Browns potential wild card, and this could be a playoff team. Their roster is very good. They could be here, but Deshaun Watson is a question mark. That's the bizarre truth. Texans are a Super Bowl contender on paper, and I'm a Jags fan saying that. And I am a Jags fan saying that. The Cowboys are a playoff team. I got 5 NFC teams, so I'm gonna move one into potential wild cards before this is over, and then I'll move one of these down, missing playoff teams. Chargers are missing. Sorry, we're still talking about the Cowboys. Cowboys didn't do much this offseason, but they're still the Cowboys. They're gonna win. They're gonna be good in the regular season. Dak Prescott's gonna play good enough to get himself another contract. They just don't have the playoff success to make them a contender. Until they do, like they have to show it. Chargers are missing the playoffs, but they're gonna be good. That roster needs some work, but Jim Harbaugh, hell of a coach. Jets. That's tough. So this is probably what I'm going to do. I still have Miami as the favorite. Actually, I'm not as high on the Jets as a lot of people are. That's a major injury to come back from. That is a major injury to come back from. And I mean, the defense is going to play lights out. That offensive line has to be able to protect Aaron Rodgers, and that's the question mark for me. Carolina, they have one more year before they're going to be heading upwards, in my opinion. They did a good job addressing the offensive line, but they're at that point where they have to overpay people to come play for them because they're terrible. And it's not Bryce Young's fault. I'm not going to say he was the wrong pick. CJ Stroud has looked amazing. Completely different situations. Would CJ have been the better pick? Probably, maybe. I would say yes at this point. But Bryce Young has not been given a fair shake. Same thing with like when Trevor Lawrence was coming out. You can't fault Trevor Lawrence for how bad they were the rookie year. That was on ownership. That was on the GM. That was on the coach. Not on him. So same with Bryce Young. Not on him. Titans are going to be mediocre. They are an interesting team. I would put them here, but they're not young. They're not young at all. They have one of the oldest rosters in the NFL, specifically at wide receiver. Colts are a potential wild card. They are a potential wild card, and that depends on Anthony Richardson. And then the Jags. I'm glad they picked that for last. They're a playoff team. They are a playoff team. And now here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the list and kind of move some stuff around. I'm going to move them down. I don't think the Texans right now are a contender because we haven't seen it. We have not seen it yet. And let me kind of do this AFC, NFC. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. That's fair. 7-7. That's what it is anyway, right? Potential wild cards. Bucks could 100% overtake the Falcons. Steelers could sneak into the playoffs. There could be 3 or 4 teams from the AFC North. AFC South and the AFC North are definitely 2 of the teams where I could see multiple teams coming in, whether it be the Jags, Texans, and Colts, in any order. Or I could see Browns, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, any of those could 100% make it. Same with the AFC East. Buffalo, Miami, and the Jets. Any of those I could see in the playoffs. I don't see the Saints in the playoffs, though. Not this year. I don't see the Chargers this year. I could actually kind of see it, honestly. We'll move them up. The Giants are tough because they made the playoffs not last year, but the year before, and they had a lot of injuries. Their quarterback went down. So could you move them up? Maybe. Vikings as well. Before Kirk Cousins went down, they were a playoff team the year before. They were like an 11-win playoff team. Chicago, I want to put these guys up here so bad, but that's a really tough one. Titans, they're a sleeping team. It wouldn't shock me if they did well. And I'm a Jags fan, I say that. All depends on Will Levis and their health. That's like the two big things. And obviously, Callahan coming into the league and being a decent head coach. So they've got a lot of if factors. Cardinals as well. Is Kyler Murray going to be the same guy he was? They've been a very tough team, but does the talent of Marvin Harrison Jr. take him over the hump? Raiders, again, that's the question mark where it's like, is Minshew good enough? Which he showed with the Colts, he can make the playoff. Granted, they didn't make it, but it was a drop pass away from making the playoff. If that running back catches that 4th and 2 ball out of the backfield, they're in the playoffs. And the Texans aren't. And then the Texans are not as highly sought, which is why I took them out of Super Bowl contender. Granted, Texans upgraded their roster a little bit, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, that's why I'm not going to put them in contender just yet. Yeah, I think there's a pretty fair list, honestly. I don't hate anything on it. I showed you my things. Bo, I could see this coming here too. But Broncos. I think Kevin O'Connell will have J.J. McCarthy play at a game manager type style, and they're not going to be terrible. Washington, that experience at head coach is going to help them out. I really believe. Dan Quinn is a better coach than Ron Rivera. You know? Chicago, Caleb Williams, man. Let's see what he can do. That's the question mark. And then Patriots and Panthers, they're going to be duking it out for the top pick. Mayo's got his stuff cut out for him, man. Bad roster. Rookie quarterback. No real weapons for his rookie quarterback. It's going to be a tough season, most likely. But thank you guys so much for watching. That was all 32 teams. And a tier list for who I think will be the Super Bowl favorites, all the way down to who I think will get the #1 pick. Thank you guys for watching.